In a woodworking shop, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the traditional woodworkers, who build with their hands and hand tools, and the CNCers, who use highly technical machines to make their projects. These are their stories.
Welcome to episode 85 of the Sawdust Nation podcast with your hosts, myself, Nat from Nap's Naughty Works LLC, Nick from MPG Creations, and Josh from North Country Woodworking. But hey, so check it out. We got a little bit to talk about tonight. We got a little bit of shop woes, payment woes, a lot of cool stuff going on, and we're here to tell you about it. Before we get there, Nick, give us our sponsors.
That's right, Nap. Thanks for kicking it on over. We want to give a huge shout out and thank you to PWNCNC. Well, am I too loud for you there, Nap? Sorry about that. Anyway, PWNCNC. Go ahead and head on over to their website, pwncnc.com. Go ahead and use your promo code SawdustNation981 if you want to get 5% off your order. And thanks to Totalboat. And if you're interested in getting a Totalboat, check them out at Totalboat.com. If you want that 10% off Totalboat promo code, go ahead and slide into the Sawdust Nation DMs and we'll hook you up. Okay, gang, what's going on in your shop, Josh?
Pass.
He's just dying, and he can't even acknowledge what just happened. Nick, I don't know what happened to your voice there, bud, but it was pretty epic.
Let's see what's happening in the shop. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I finally got to go into the shop for the first time in 10 days or so. I cleaned it up a little bit. Then I had a fellow woodworker from across the street come over, and he needed a slab cut up a little bit. So we went ahead and did that. It's Jones Workshop on Instagram. Chris came over and gave me some red maple and some other maple. And I also had a maker come in after he was complete, and it was Matt from Cape and Perry. And for the first time in my CNC career, I actually did, it's a bow tie, but it's more of an inlay for a cookie he's doing. It's going to be a table. It's going to be the last name of his client. So I did some letters for him to inlay, fix up that crack that he has in that cookie. And I did templates for him. That way he can cut it out of acrylic. And I learned some really interesting techniques with that. Things that I can use in the future, especially because sometimes you can't just throw something out of the CNC, carve it, and call it a day. So, and I can offer that service to anyone out there that needs it. I can bow ties or whatever. So it was a pretty cool experience to go through that and learn how to do that. He sent me a picture of where it's going to go and what's going to look like, and it looks pretty good.
Question.
Go ahead. Answer.
Why don't you put those kits on Etsy?
Yeah. Well, there has been other people on Instagram that has done things that similar, and a certain company has reached out and told them to cease.
What, making bow ties?
Yeah, because there is a company on Instagram that does that, and they make kits and whatnot, and they advertised it on Instagram, and they were basically told legally to stop. I think he's found a way around it because I've seen posts that say otherwise, but I think he's labeled it other ways.
I'm not saying Instagram, though. I was just saying Etsy. Just throw it up there and see what happens.
I actually might. I got to do a little more experimenting with it and figure out kind of where I want to go with it. But it's definitely worth your while, especially when you got a laser that can do it. So, and then a CNC to back that up. But I got to use a bit I bought. It's called the Jenny, and it's from Cody CNC and Engraving. He has a website, cadencemfgdesign.com, and he sells bits that he makes. And Nap turned me on to it. I bought the 1/4 inch bit from him and an 1/8 inch bit from him, compression bits, both of them. And I used it for the first time for this project. And I'm cutting through elm like it was butter. There wasn't any hesitation. It was clean cuts. I actually turned it up quite a bit because it was handling it. It was like butter. It was cutting pine, no issues at all. I was pretty impressed by it. These things are sharp. They cut clean. One of the best compression bits I've ever used. So if you haven't checked it out, go check him out.
I'm going to tell you what real quick, Josh, on that note with those bits. So when he first came out with the Jenny, which is that 1/4 inch bit you have, he had just came out with it. I was like, hey, man, I'm going to buy a couple of your bits. So I bought one of those. And I was like, hey, we'll put it through the paces a little bit on just a hobbyist machine. I was able to cut before, my Shipoko said, not anymore. I was cutting 1/8-inch deep passes with that bit.
Now, I went very conservative because I've never used these bits and I'm doing it on someone else's wood and, for another project. And like, as I'm doing it, the guy looked at me and goes, "Can you go any faster?" These things, like, it literally was it was very impressive. Like, how I know with the bits I use, kind of like when I'm pushing them, I could see it on the machine. I could see it in the wood. This was it was cutting. I keep saying cutting like butter because that's pretty much what it was. I definitely wasn't testing the bit the way it should have been for that cut. I wasn't expecting it to cut that good, but yeah. So a lot of new stuff in the shop, right? So got to do a new project, something I haven't done. I got to use new bits that I haven't done, and it was also the first time I stepped in the shop as a business owner of a LLC. That was pretty exciting. Yes, you heard me right. I have now established as an LLC. I am officially giving more money to the state and federal for taxes. But I'm also protected, can do some bigger and better jobs out there. Thankfully, I've had Nap and Nick here to help me on that whole trajectory. And I appreciate you guys' assistance because I'm going to text you about, 35 more times each, more questions. Because I'm still setting things up.
Hey Nap, what program do you use for accounting again? Hey Nap, what accounting program do you use? He texted me today. He's like, I know I've asked you like 75 times, Nap.
Yeah,
mine's been going like 1,000,000 miles a minute. What program do you use for accounting? I was like,
well, I'm overly paranoid when it comes to like something of that magnitude. I consider this a very big step, so I want to make sure all my ducks are in a row. And with that, I called New Jersey Treasury Department on Monday. And I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure all my stuff is good. I have a few questions. And the guy's like, "Oh, I can't find your stuff." And I'm like, red flag here. Well, it takes 2 days, business days for it to process. And I did it on Friday. So it should be in the system by now. I already have all my certificates and everything. So I know I did it right. And after some further review, I don't even think I need to call them. It's just one of those things where completely new. I want to make sure I don't miss, filing something or sending some kind of paperwork in. New experience, new learning curve, but we'll get through it. With that, I sent the estimate to one of my major jobs. It's the first estimate with this kind of price tag for myself. It seems to be going fairly well. They keep adding stuff to it. So, I mean, my price couldn't have been that bad. And, they're willing to tack on some more. So I can't complain with that. This next bit is going to be for only Patreons. And I'm going to actually cut it off right here for everyone else. And I apologize. But if you become a Patreon, you can go ahead and listen to this next half. That's pretty much what's happening in my shop. I have a lot of little projects I'm getting out of the door. There's projects that are a little past due to me stepping out for about 10 days. You know what? I'm going to catch up on those. I'm going to get the stuff out I need to, and then get back on track. I'm going to make it happen.
When there's a will,
with that,
there's a way.
There is. With that, Nap, what do you got going on in your shop, dude?
All right. So still making those plaques for the medical wing. There was a pause on those, and I'll get to that in a few. But I've been getting more orders from out of state, which has been pretty cool. Due to word of mouth and just people perusing the Facebooks and the Instagrams, which is cool. No, I don't have an Etsy yet, but there is a bigger and better plan coming. And it was some advice I was given to by Brent, actually, from Clean Cut Woodworking. So he actually spent a couple days building his site, building a website, because he's found that he's had some issues with the old social medias from time to time. One of which being now, his IG just kind of like disappeared for some reason. So he's hopefully going to get that back. But he pretty much was telling me that you can't really count on that stuff sometimes to like run your business and, those sorts of things. So he ended up creating his own website and linking it to everything. So he can make it a little more user-friendly for not only himself, but also his customers. And realistically, he won't have to rely on anybody else but himself, essentially. So if something happens, it's on him, essentially. So there's that. Let's see. I got a large North Carolina outline cutout with an axe I'm going to mount to it and make some cherry badges, one of which is going to be their AMU logo. And then the other one is just going to be a small like plaque base for some words. Okay, so I'll put a metal plate on there. And I'm still running metal plates because I still have them. But eventually here, once I run out, I'm going to do that acrylic stuff that Nick was showing me not too long ago. And then see what else. I got a flag coin holder I'm going to make for somebody in one of the other squadrons here on base. That was just a quick like, hey, can you make this? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have about 10 other jobs, which my planner's not in here, which it should be so I can say what I'm working on. But I'm redoing a vanity, a little something out of my comfort zone because I normally don't like rebuild or fix up older furniture. So I'm going to give that a roll. Mind you, it's not something I can refinish, but I will be able to at least fix it because it was broken during a move. So I told him I'll be able to fix it. I don't think I'll be able to refinish it because it's not real wood. Come to find out. So if you do go to refinish stuff, and Nick also alluded to this when he was talking about his horror stories of getting dressers redone, you can't sand veneer over MDF because you will burn right through it and you will just ruin. Let's see what else. Got the Onefinity coming soon. That's another big addition to the shop, as I mentioned before. I did get all the parts but the Onefinity itself, which is kind of like a tease because I'm ready to get this thing built. But I've got all the other parts. I just keep staring at them and getting to learn like what I can do with everything. Let's see what else we got going on. Yeah, I mean, and then Nick and I, we did our first sub test on one of my projects. It was 75% win for research and development. We learned some things, and we ordered some other stuff that'll help fix what got messed up. We learned that when you're doing a bigger piece, you don't want to lay two pieces of laminate next to each other because even when you melt it on, it leaves a small seam. So when we went to press the pictures on, which, by the way, actually, I got it right here. Try not to destroy anything here. So it came out pretty good as far as like the pictures are concerned. If I can get this to come up over here so you can see like how the pictures came out. They actually came out pretty good. The problem was that seam, but also the uneven heating. And I think it's just because we were inexperienced with the clamshell press itself. Yeah, so we're learning as we go. So this weekend, I'm going to head over to Nick's with 4 more of these rings. I mean, listen, in research and development, and as you both know, it's going to cost you a little bit to get a little bit of money later on the road, especially when you get a process nailed down. So that's what we're going to end up doing for that. Let's see. That's really kind of it as far as what's going on in the shop. But now for the woes of getting paid for your job. So Nick always told me no money, no honey. And he's not wrong because in this case, I've put that one of the particular jobs was quite expensive. And when they paid me, it said transaction accepted. Now, for me, when I see it's accepted, I'm good to start. Well, make sure the money hits your account first before you start because I almost didn't get paid for this job. So the overall lesson here is don't start a job until you see the money in your account. Because I was sweating bullets because I'd already cut and carved this particular job out. And I was just sitting in my garage for the past 2 or 3 days until, well, it all finally got worked out. So I can continue on with it, which makes me happy, but it was still nerve-wracking, and I almost essentially got boned, so to speak. But yeah, that's kind of really all I got going on the shop. Nothing else really cool. A lot of other cool stuff coming, though, as far as when I build the Onefinity. I know I haven't been posting on the old IG as much lately, and that's just because I've been all over the place doing stuff. So I'll be posting some more content here in the near future. But yeah, that's really what I got going on. Nick.
Oh, well, yeah. So I live and die by that phrase, no money, no honey. I mean, I've been there before. Let's just say I have a few plaques still left over in my garage of people who ordered something and never came to buy it from or actually pay me for it. So, but that being said, I was sick last week. Didn't really do too much. Just some small orders. No, not a lot of building except for last weekend. Well, the end of last week, I was starting to feel a little better, and I got a phone call saying, "Hey, where are you at with this retirement trunk for this person?" I was like, "Nowhere. I haven't even not tracking it because the person didn't respond to my messages and didn't call me with the specs. I gave them a quote, and I guess I thought, you know how it goes. You give somebody a quote, and they're like, "Oh, that's too expensive," and they go like radio silence. So I'm just used to that at this point. So I just let it alone. Well, they called me, and they're like, "Hey, not that person, but the person who's organizing this person's retirement party." Anyway, so now, needless to say, I'm doing the project. I've got to have it done in a little over a week. The hard parts are over, which is it's a 3 foot by 2 foot by 22 inch trunk.
That's a big trunk, bro.
Yeah, that's huge.
And it's going to have a lot of stuff in it. I'm waiting on this person's personal militaria to show up so I can start laying out the shadow box that goes in the lid. There's going to be a shadow box tray. It's completely walnut. The whole thing's walnut. I ordered solid brass hardware for it, and it was expensive. If you're buying good hardware, it's expensive. So, I mean, you charge some.
Where'd you get your hardware from, Nick?
Well, let me look. I got it from a woodworking hardware specific place. Let me look and see what it was. They just emailed me the other day with a
because I definitely want to look at this site because, you know, of course, I use the old Amazons quite frequently, but I will say if there's a specific place I can buy that kind of hardware, that would be good to know.
It's nice hardware. It's just really, really expensive just because it's like, it's not stuff you're buying at Home Depot, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll get back with you on that. I'm not exactly sure what the place was called, but I'll get back with you on that. Anyway, I got that ordered. It came in yesterday. It's beautiful, nice, and brass is beautiful when it's solid brass. You know what I mean? It's nice and heavy, and all the materials are ordered. I got the blue flock. I bought a big old thing of blue flock.
Blue, not black, huh?
Blue. So it's going to be like that Air Force blue you see in sort of in like shadow boxes. But the trunk lid's going to be its own shadow box with a flag. The tray is going to be its own shadow box. It's going to have all of her military training instructor stuff in there. And then, I'm going to put casters inside. Like, I'm going to recess casters on the underside of it so you don't have to pick it up to carry it because it's going to be heavy. So, Stan, I'm willing to bet this thing's probably going to end up weighing like 75 pounds empty. So we'll see.
Jeez.
That's pretty close, man, because that trunk I made a while back for the double chiefs, it was a fraction of that size. That thing was it was hefty.
Yeah, it's no joke if you're working with solid walnut, it's no joke, I am using plywood for the bottom just to help with the weight, but at the same time, I mean, it also helps with the price too, because that would have been, that much more walnut that I had to buy. But you're not going to see the bottom. The bottom's going to be covered with flock, for one. Mm-hmm. For two, the tray bottom is going to be covered or be plywood as well. But I'm also putting cutting board feet on the trays so that they can be pulled out and set on things. Yeah, I mean, that's a big job I have right now. I've had other people come at me with jobs past couple of days I've taken it. I took another order for a weight plate black.
Nice. Those are nice. I like those.
Thanks, but this one's a bumper style plate, so I got to like take the HDU and double it up because you know how thick the bumper plates are, right?
Yeah.
Then I got to kind of contour it on the edges with the router instead of the other ones I just kind of leave flat on the edges, on the outside.
Yeah.
But the bumper plates have like a little bit of a round to it. So anyway, that's pretty much it, man. Feeling better. But that's all I got going on in the shop.
You look better, man. I was worried about you for the minute.
Yeah, it was rough. I didn't have COVID. I got tested for it. They thought that they had, they pretty much, I had COVID at work. And so they were like, stay away. That wasn't the case. But anyway.
You didn't get got.
I didn't get got. So, but what's going on, guys? We got questions in here today?
I got one from Victor pulled up. Question: as makers, do you enjoy purchasing a new, more expensive tool, or possibly getting a used, cheaper one and fixing it? Yes, they each have the challenges from cost to possibly learning how to rebuild. Love to hear your thoughts. So new versus used, possibly having to refix it. Like, what are y'all's preferences here?
Nick, I think you should go ahead first, man.
So new is always nice because you don't have to worry about, majority of the time, you don't have to worry about it being broken, and you can pull it right out of the box and use it. But sometimes used can be surprisingly nice, especially if you're buying an older tool and you can't get it anymore, and maybe they don't make them like they used to. So it's just case by case basis. But I'm never gonna ever buy a used, I don't know, a used when, you know what I mean? I just buy a new one. They're just so, I mean, I'm saying they're cheap, but they're so affordable that I'd rather buy a new one and not worry about the wear and tear that it's already taken. So, how about you there, Josh?
If I can get a good deal, then I don't mind fixing something up. You know what I'm saying? If it's going to overall save me lots of money, let's do it. It's going to help me learn in the process. As I get older and as I continue doing this, it is a little bit nicer to get a new tool, bring it in the shop, align it, do whatever you need to do with it, and then just go ahead and use it. So it really depends. If it's something I need right now and it needs to happen, guess what? It's probably going to be new. If it's something that I do not need right away and it's something I kind of wait on and kind of like ease myself into it and have time to, fix or do what I need to do, sure, let's go with the use. I don't mind doing that. There's a comparison there, a checklist, the negatives and the positives, whatever, and whatever outweighs the other. So that's my take. What about you, Nap?
So for specific tools, yeah, I would say I would buy new, and that's just my preference. Like CNCs, like I don't mind seeing them on the old Facebooks and things, but I don't know what they've been through, how many times they've crashed a machine. Because believe it or not, new CNC users, even including myself, crash the machine. You don't know what's been contorted, what's been dinged, dented, whatever the case may be. So like me personally, I'd rather buy a CNC new, right? And there's my kid. He must have just woke up from a snap. As you see, his hair is just all over the place. Oh, some boys are joining us for the podcast. He hasn't been feeling too hot. As you can see, his face looks, he's like, where am I? But now, like, for example, the bandsaw I bought, the Jet bandsaw, love the bandsaw. Like, I love that I bought it new and everything. But I will say this. I'd almost rather buy a bandsaw used because that thing's pretty much already set up. It took me a whole day to set a bandsaw. Maybe that's just because I was inexperienced with them or something. But I will say something that's dialed in with that kind of tool, I probably would have bought it used. But Nick also hit it on the head too for certain tools that just aren't made the way they used to be. Like this piece used to be metal, but now it's plastic. Like stuff like that, that would be cool to buy used.
Well, you also look at like joiners. People aren't abusing their joiners. You know what I mean? They're not out there like, I mean, obviously somebody probably hit a nail before with their joiner head, like the cutter head, but I'm not going to say, make the blanket statement. Nobody's ever abused their joiner, but people aren't out there just using their joiners for means that they're not supposed to, unlike screwdrivers and wood chisels. And you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, shoot, my chisels, I think you made a comment a while back about how my chisels look like they've been through the Great War. Yeah. We'll just say my chisels haven't necessarily been just used for chiseling. But when I do eventually get me a nice set, those will be only used for chiseling, not scraping glue or prying things open or things you shouldn't use chisels for, because I've definitely done that.
I think we all have, and I just want to add this. I actually have 2 sets of chisels, actually 3 sets. I have one that I totally abuse and use. The Stanleys, the ones you have. I have the ones I got when I've been using since really the beginning. And then when I got my really nice Stanley Sweethearts. Stanley Sweethearts are basically only meant for like fine woodworking. The ones I've had since the beginning, it's used for like everything in between. And then the 3 set Stanleys I have, they're chips and they're blunt tools at this point.
Well,
it's worth having 2 sets.
It is worth having 2 sets. Especially if you hide the good ones and you ask your wife to go paint something and she uses the end of a chisel to open up the paint can. I'm just saying.
You look at it, you're just watching it happen. It's like one of those slow motion moments. You're just like, no.
No, the worst part
I know what
is
I'm doing. I'm sharpening.
the worst part is when you come home and you see that chisel left out and it's got paint on it and you're like, what the F? So
But yeah, I mean, shoot, I bought my Sawstop used. I mean that, like, I'm not, if I could buy something like that cheaper and know it's going to be a beast, well, I'm gonna buy it. And of course I did. That's why I have one now. But yeah, I think I beat that question to death. But it just depends on the tool, and I don't know.
Well, anyway, so we've all experienced different hardships as becoming a business and whatnot. I'm interested, when you guys became an LLC, finally established, what the first big hurdle you had was.
Ooh. I'm going to say the first big hurdle I had was taking on my first big job as an established business. Because if you think about it, your name is legit now. Like, yeah, okay, your name's out there, word of mouth. You're not an LLC. Like, okay, whatever. You're just like hole in the wall garage shop type deal. But as soon as you become an actual business and people start throwing your name out there as, hey, yeah, this person's legit business, blah, blah, blah. You start getting reviews on your company and those things. You don't necessarily want to push out crap work. Not that we would anyways. But yeah, my first big job was making, 45 signs for a squadron. And those hang up like outside for everyone to see on a daily basis. So that was, I have to say, my biggest hurdle was my first big job. And then the second hurdle was accounting. Although I have, a degree in business management and stuff, and they give you like a class or two on accounting, I still don't know the ins and outs of that stuff. And because there's a program for it, guess what? I'm going to use that program. So that was just another one, and learning the ins and outs of like reconciliation, taxes, and all that fun stuff. But yeah, those were my hurdles when I first began.
getting the business established was a hurdle. I just, it took me a minute to just do it. Once you do it, then you're kind of all in because you don't have a choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's where I'm going to go with is like actually taking the steps to do it because I like making stuff. I didn't have time to mess with. Like, I think it's kind of messed up. They make you pay to get an established, like, to make yourself a business. It should. I don't think it should be as much as it does cost, because that's. I mean, look at people out there who don't have any money, who have a skill or a trade, and they want to start making money. So, but first they got to have money to pay to get the business started. You know what I mean?
But you could say that's kind of the name of the game, right? I mean, now I get what you're saying, Nick. Like, they shouldn't make you pay so much to establish, but I mean, they always say, what, you got to spend money to make money.
Yeah, but if you don't have any money and you're starting a business to have money to pay for things, then I mean, like, only in America, baby, only in America.
So I mean, obviously, I am fresh. Unless it last Friday is when I actually got established, and I tell you what, it's amazing what you can accomplish online. Like, you can live and die from what you can accomplish online right now. But it was a moment, like, as I'm doing it, I'm like, I can't really go back on this. You know what I'm saying? And I just kind of went for it. I had the time, I had some cash, and I went for it. And after it was done, there was that slight, like, well, what did I just do? But you know what? I'm happy it's done. I've been talking about it for a while. I wanted to do it at the beginning of the year. I wanted to do it right after taxes. That way I could start this year fresh. And, it's done. It's said. If you're planning on doing it, stop psyching yourself out. Make the decision. It's a yes or no thing. It really is. Do you need it? Find out if you do or not. Now, I'm going to throw AJ a little bit under the bus from Crafted in a J.
Here comes the IRS, AJ. Sorry.
No, not necessarily. He is established, but not as an LLC, because his particular projects are not going to really hurt anybody. And he's actually went to a financial advisor for this. He got, he's talked about with them, kind of went through the motions, and he's decided that it's not for his business. There's other methods that he could have that supports what he's doing.
Is he sole proprietor?
I believe so. I don't want to speak out of turn and just go ahead and throw it out there and say he is. But it is one of those things where like LLC is not the only way to go legitimate. And I want to make sure everyone out there understands that. I mean, like there might be a better fit for you and what you're trying to accomplish out there. And just do your research, ask the questions to people that know what they're talking about, and read all the paperwork. I'm telling you what, if you don't understand the paperwork, give the agencies a call. That's what I did. I literally gave them a call. I'm like, look, I just established, I don't know what this means. And they went through and they helped me with what I needed. And now I have a clear outline of what I need to accomplish. So I'm just saying, from experience and from these gentlemen in front of me, it's something that you need to sit down, have that conversation, and just do or just wait. Make a timeline for yourself, a goal.
Do or do not. There is no try.
There you go.
So with that, like Josh did say something about how the internet, you can like live or die by the internet. So I will tell you this: I just go through the comptroller sites, because those are legitimate sites. So like if you're going to do a sole proprietorship, an LLC, corporation, whatever it is you're going to establish as, do it through the comptroller site, because you're not going to have to wonder if the third party company you're using is really just a sham. Okay. Like you're not shoveling your money somewhere and like, oh, I just lost, $300 to $500 on establishing, and now I got to start over. Like that would be a big blow if you're trying to do that, and you do it, I guess, through non-official channels.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about when it comes to this. So, I mean, like, we don't necessarily have to get in it all tonight, but I mean, the big takeaway for me, and I just want everyone to understand, is like, Nap, you're one of the few people I know that jumped into it right away. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of us have just dragged it on and then later established, but it is what it is. You should know when it's time for you to establish. It's not just a feeling. It's when you start making bigger and bigger jobs. It's when, there's certain people coming at you looking for quotes. And that's the game time. That's when you got to make that decision. And that's what happened to me. So I got approached and I gave an estimate, and I'm like, it is time to do this.
It is time.
It's like, was it Lion King? And, was it not the monkey?
Rafiki the monkey, or is it
Rafiki? Yeah. He's not a monkey. He's a baboon, and he's like, it is time. What else you guys got going on? I kind of beat that one to death. Apologize, but I'm so excited about it. I could talk about it all night.
Finger joints, bro.
Yo, yeah. So so that's a big chest that you're making, and I know you love using finger joints.
I actually love big chests, but yeah. Nap explained to me how to make big finger joints by using ratchet straps while you're using your jig. What I wanted to do was make a new sled so I could do it without having to worry about it. I have a 5x5 piece of 3/4 inch Baltic birch I could just build a sled with and do it that way. But since Nap was saying that he has his Incra iBox jig, and the last chest he made was so big that he had to ratchet strap the two pieces together while they were side by side in order to keep them upright, because they're hanging over the sides of the jig. I don't know if I want to do that. I'm pretty sure I'm either going to, this is a high chance that I'm going to jack that up. I'm going to cut one of them finger joints all jacked up, and then it's not going to fit together properly. So I'm thinking I'm going to build a sled. I'm going to put some paste wax on the bottom of it and use it that way. And it'll just be one giant finger joint sled for like 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch finger joints. So, but you never know. I could always, essentially wuss out and just do it the old fashioned way like Nap did with the ratchet straps.
So to better explain that, because Josh was like, what?
Yeah, I you say ratchet straps and a jig on the table saw. It's just kind of, it's not
okay. So believe it or not, so doing this, and Nick has kind of figured this out already with one of his prior chests that he made, and it was like a 2-foot one. But it's an ordeal when you're moving a bigger panel across this jig, because
absolutely, yeah.
like because you got like 7-8 inches hanging off, and all of that thing wants to do is tip off to the side. So like on the first panel, I'll actually take one of my Pony Jorgensen little twist little baby clamps, and I'll go ahead and for the first couple fingers, I'll secure it with that. But once I start getting to the end and getting to flipping and putting the next panel on, what I'll do is both of them are sitting on the anchor jig. And what I'll do is I'll wrap that ratchet strap all the way around the middle, maybe a little bit further up. And what I'll do is I'll ratchet strap it together. Now, I'm not trying to smoke that thing tight. I'm just making it tight enough to where it holds both pieces of the wood right up against each other. So that way, when I run through that second board, it's lined up, at least for me.
You're getting a 90-degree cut. That's the whole premise here. Get that 90-degree cut or dado, because if it's tilted, you're going to get a wonky cut, and then it's not going to fit together right when you go to do rough fitting.
And it's a pain. Let me tell you, it's a pain. But yeah, and honestly, yes, it's kind of a MacGyver-ish way to do it. And yes, it does take a little longer because I do literally turn this saw on and off a few times because, like, to me, having a saw first of all, dado stacks, I fear those things. Like, I just do. It's a big freaking thick piece of
That's
carbide.
Right. You've mentioned that before. Like, you rather use your router table than actual dado stack.
For certain applications. So, like, if I'm doing, for example, a rabbit for a shadow box, let's say, I'll take my piece of plywood, whether it be 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, which generally use 1/2 inch for my backers. I'll use a 1/2 inch bit and I'll actually rabbit the frame that way. And to me, and this is just to me because I'm still scared of the dado stack, and as I should be, because again, it's a big spinning piece of metal, and if you jack up, well, you're taking away more than just a piece of your finger. You're taking the whole thing. Or risk kickback and throwing holes through your garage door. Not saying I haven't done that, or maybe I have. So I just go ahead and I use the router because to me it's just safer for me. Especially because I'm really the only one ever in the garage, and if I do jack up, the wife is not immediately available to help save me. So I just take the safest route for myself when it comes to that stuff.
That makes sense. I mean, like, it's comfort level in the shop all around. Like, if you're not comfortable doing something, I mean, there's always the capability to learn and just gather that comfort slowly. But it's also about, you don't want to be jacking yourself up either. That makes sense. Yeah. I'm sorry. When you say ratchet straps and like that combination, it just was not computing over here.
You're like,
I was going to cut all the finger joints by hand with my chisels.
Do you know how long you'd be there doing that?
Yeah, it would probably take a long time. And then there's no guarantee that they're going to fit either.
Such deep insight there.
And it's Nate, you got anything else on the old ratchet strap thing we're going to do with that thing? Or you good? So I don't step on you there.
No, it's okay. Step away, homie. I'm done.
I'm going to step away here. So this is, I know we talk a lot of lasers. We talk a lot of CNC stuff. And, people are like, well, I don't have a laser CNC. But for my people with that laser, I did end up finding a website that creates boxes on the laser. Now, typically speaking, when you do these things, you find like these plans, and sometimes things don't fit tight, or it doesn't cut the way it needs to. Well, I found this site, which is in the reels on our Instagram page. I was able to literally generate a box, random box, and cut it on my laser. Now, mind you, I'm not going to do that for a big job. I'm going to do it for a small job. But just know, instead of working harder, you can work smarter and find a box generator online. And I will put it in the mentions of the site for it because I don't remember it off the top of my head. It's a bunch of random letters and stuff. But I was able to generate this box and do it in a matter of like 10 minutes from generation to cut. And it's got more than just regular boxes. It's got a lot of different styles. So it's definitely something to look at if you have a laser and you want to push out, just small like trinket boxes and things like that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool when you did that. I know you could do that with the CNC, but obviously you get the little roundness from the bit. I never would have thought about doing it with a laser for some reason. It's one of those things I just haven't thought of yet. So that was pretty cool seeing you knock that out. So today, during shop talk, when I was talking about cutting acrylic, I forget the type of acrylic he brought me, but it was like I don't know, it was like a 1/4 inch thick. And I knew I might have some issues doing it with a 40 watt. So I was going to go with multiple passes at rapid speed and try to cut through it. But the stuff he brought was like, I wish I had a piece with me. He took the scrap, but it was like super acrylic. Like my laser would only penetrate for, I don't know, like 1/8 of an inch, not even.
Sounds like a personal problem.
It was a very personal problem. I was definitely disappointed with the performance, if you know what I'm saying.
Did you clean your lens?
So it's not that. It was the kind of acrylic that he brought over. Luckily, I had some of the stuff I've been using, and I was able to cut that pretty quickly. But knowing your machines and capabilities, I found out today a little bit about that. So
Josh, you talk about performance of your laser, and you may or may not have become a marketplace aficionado here, and you might have found yourself a new laser. Are you going to buy that thing?
See, I'm having some issues justifying buying that.
How?
I don't. Okay, wait, hold on. Hear me out. I've actually mentioned this to you. So the laser is going for a decent price. Okay, but it is only a 60 watt. It's OMTech 60 watt. I think autofocus, and the price is pretty good on it. But I don't know if I'm gonna have to replace the tube on it as soon as I get it. I don't know. In a 60 watt. So, I mean, yes, it's going to be more.
What are you trying to say? 60 watts not enough?
Well, the whole thing in my mind, when I buy another laser, it's going to be something I don't have to replace for a very long time, right? I don't want to go ahead and buy something that I'm stepping up again and having to do that. That's my hesitation. If I buy a laser, I want it to be delivered, be able to use it, and then when I move, I'm not looking for the next best thing, because this is working out for me and exactly my needs. And, I kind of did that with a Glowforge, but at the time, the Glowforge, as far as I knew, was the answer to what I was looking for. I had no idea. And Nick, I don't think you had an idea how much a laser would change the game once you got one.
Yeah, I didn't know the capabilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we thought in the beginning. Okay, so at least in my interpretation of how things went for myself, it was okay. Woodworking, awesome tools. This, that, the other thing. Ooh, CNC changed the game. I could do so much more. Wait, I bought a diode. Oh wow, look at the stuff I could do with a diode laser. Maybe a Glowforge, because Glowforge was the first. They brand fantastically. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, their marketing team is just on point. You can't argue that. That is what I fell into, and a lot of people do. And I know I've actually got a couple conversations on Instagram and other social media accounts, just saying, talking about that, because we don't just affiliate with OMTech. Okay, it's a product that we have all had experience with in some point, in some way. Okay, that we know we can put it back, or we could back up. Okay. I know the limitations of the Glowforge, and for the average user that's not doing the amount of stuff we're doing, it's great. It's operating what I need it to do. It's doing what I need it to do on the smaller scale. If I was going to stay in that small scale, I have no problem with this. But that's the reason why I'm not going to go ahead and probably get that, is because I want to go ahead and get at least 100 watt, and I want to get something that I don't have to replace parts as soon as I get. I don't know the condition of this thing. I'm taking the guy's word for it. If he said lightly used, what does that mean? So
I put it through the ringer, sat in the rain.
Exactly. Like, I know what's the condition of where it's been and sitting. I've already found the power requirement, my outlet, essentially. When I do get one, I already got clearance.
That's a 20 amp outlet too, if it's the outside one.
It is. That's why I asked. So long story short, I'm holding off. It's not something I need right this minute. If a job came down where I needed that for the job, I would be charging, basically making enough profit to get what I need. So, I mean, it is what it is. I want one tomorrow, but it's just not going to happen right now. I have other big things coming up that I need to work on and get knocked out before I go down that road. But
Work on those big things.
I did learn something, by the way, about the OMTech lasers.
what's up?
So remember a little while back, I talked about manual focus and autofocus and how like there's not really a whole lot of difference. So there's a huge difference. So my buddy Ron from Splinter Customs on the old IG, one of the guys that got me started in the business, y'all recall that, and he got an on-focus laser. Okay, well I'm helping him set his stuff up, doing his ramp test and all these things. Well, I go, hey man, go ahead and lower your bed for me. And he goes to try to lower it with the U button because that's what they use, the U up and down, and it no work key, it no move. And I'm like, that's a little weird. And he has a knob on the inside of his bed to adjust his bed. I'm like, bro, open your bottom panel for me. It's literally just a solid belt all the way around. So autofocus comes with your Z movable bed with the autofocus tool. The manual focus requires you to hand crank that sucker with your hand up and down. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. So I learned that. So if you don't want to hand crank and you're doing like, let's say a lot of rotary stuff and you want to be able to lower your bed fast, you're going to want to get an autofocus. But if you're just doing a lot of like flat material and things like that, and maybe the occasional like, hey, I forgot to laser edge something on this, 2-foot box or whatever, then yeah, you probably, have to hand crank your life away. But for the typical stuff he's doing, he said it really wasn't that big of a deal because he's doing a lot of like plywood cutouts and things like that. But yeah, if you don't want to hand crank it, get the autofocus. But for him, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a autofocus kit you could buy on OMTech to upgrade your machine, and it looks like it's pretty quick and easy upgrade, to be honest with you. Run a couple wires, put the driver in, and put the motor in. So
famous last words, right?
Yeah, looks pretty easy. 10 days later, what is going on? Yeah,
that's how that goes.
I have a feeling that's what it's going to be like when I set up this Onefinity. Oh yeah, it'll take me a day, as they say, because it literally takes, I think, 25 minutes to set up per some people. But I think that's what like the typical Onefinity. Yeah, they said the setup for that thing is quick. If you have like your table and your surface ready, it's not that. Doesn't take that long to set up. So
and no kidding, I would never have guessed.
Because everything's pre-assembled. They send you 3 pre-assembled. They send you the 2 Ys and the X assembled and everything. It's not too terrible. So, and there's a puppy whining. But yeah, man, that's what I learned in that little ordeal. But he told me though, he's like, Nap, that changed my life. As soon as he got cutting on that thing, he's like, dude, I already cut this puzzle. I already put this thing out on my little website, sent it out to some people. Dude, there's people already buying stuff from him. Like, he's like, if I could have chosen a CNC versus a laser, I would have chosen a laser first because this stuff is quick.
That's something that, like, I think, at least, I must go ahead and put you in this category, Nick. Nick and I really didn't know about the capability of a laser. Like, what we knew was, like, JTech photonics and, like, diode lasers. Yeah, I think the stories would have been a little bit different if we knew. But, I mean, I'm curious, Nap. Like, how did you get into the laser game so early? Like, what was the driving force for you? Because I know, like, for us, it was kind of like we stumbled across it. And for you, it's almost like you knew. That's
the thing I didn't know. But our amazing sponsor, Daniel, over at Pone CNC, he was cutting stuff out like crazy. And I was like, hey, man, how much that set you back? And, we went back and forth about it. And he's actually the one that he was like the Nick of my at the time. He pretty much was like, yeah, you should get this laser. It's really cool. And I literally bought the laser and showed up, unpacked it. And I was like, what did I do? Kind of like you with like your LLC. Like I looked at this thing and I was like, oh God. Like, because I was using the diode and it just wasn't enough. And I wanted to be able to cut stuff out. And I was like, you know what? Let's just try this CO2 thing after I saw Daniel cutting his acrylic in one pass. And I was like, yeah, let's see what happens. And from there, the rest is history. I mean, I think Nick stumbled onto the OMTech thing because he like came over and saw what that thing could do and was just like, what the?
Yeah, after the research, I realized they were all the lasers from China are pretty much the same for the most part. They're just different companies making them.
It's just amazing, like the different ways we've come across it. And I know we talk CNCs and lasers a lot on the podcast. It's because, well, it's the biggest, best thing going on in our shops right now. This podcast is truly, you could follow its path, the journey from the very beginning. For, we're talking about miter saws. We're talking about, table saws. We're talking about job site table saws. And then, we get our CNCs and we get our lasers. It's been a journey for all of us. It's not like we just showed up in our shop one day, had all of our tools, and we just went at it. And that's the biggest takeaway from doing this podcast is like, we are still here talking about hand tools. We're still here talking about some of the stuff that anyone can get their hands on, even the ones beginning. So, stay tuned. This year, we're going to have some people that have a lot of more experience in hand tools than us that are going to, explain how to operate, everything from how to sharpen a chisel to hand planes and all those hand tools to even more experienced people, wood turning. We're probably going to have Eric back from Raven to give us some more pointers because I eventually want to lathe myself. You know what I'm saying? I want to get into that. So just stay tuned. We have a lot going on this year, including that 100th episode. But I think it's time to wrap this episode up with our sponsors there, Nick.
That's right. Thank you to Pwn CNC for your support. This episode has been brought to you by Pwn CNC, and Daniel over there is busy in his workshop, constantly coming up with new items, innovating, and changing the game daily. But check him out, pwncnc.com or at pwncnc on the World Wide Web. And if you want 5% off your Pwn CNC order, use promo code SAWDUSTNATION981. That's SAWDUSTNATION981. And last but not least, thank you to Totalboat. Totalboat's got that amazing epoxy and the great varnishes. They've got that wood honey and all that stuff. Check them out. Totalboat.com. Hit them up on the big IG at Totalboat. Tell them Nick sent you. Also, if you want a 10% off promo code for your Totalboat order, slide into the Sawdust Nation podcast DMs or shoot us an email and we will hook you up. And I'm going to turn it on over to Nap.
Yeah, so if you are listening to us on the old Apple Podcast or any of those other podcast catchers out there like Spotify or anything like that, go and give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5 stars, please let us know why you're not giving us 5 stars because we can't fix what we don't know and give you that content that you deserve. But also, thank you, Patreons, as well. I just got to throw that out there as well. I mean, you guys make this happen just as much as our sponsors do. I got to throw you out there. And all you new Patreons that have been joining us, and if you're listening to us and you're not a Patreon, you probably should become one because, one, you're missing out on some other cool content that you don't get in the free version, if you will. But also, you get double entries in the giveaways. And if you don't know and didn't watch the live today, there is a lot of cool stuff we're giving away for the 100th, which is fastly approaching, which is kind of crazy. It's coming up. We're already on episode 85. There's only 15 episodes until that 100th. But yeah, go ahead and give us that good rating on the old podcast catchers. And thank you, Patreons. Josh.
So if you like what you heard here, and even if you don't, you can go ahead and reach out to us and tell us, topic ideas, what you liked, what you didn't like. Contact all 3 of us at Sawdust Nation Podcast at Instagram. Nap from Nap's Naughty Works LLC and Nick from NPG Creations and myself from North Country Woodworking LLC. Yeah, just had to.
Oh, sorry. Wow. Yeah, he's got that on there now.
Yeah. If you want to go ahead and reach out to us on our email, go ahead. We'd like to hear some topic ideas, voicemails. Basically, just reach out. Maybe we can start a conversation heavy on the podcast. You know what? You never know what's going to happen once you start a conversation. And with that, you could do that by reaching out at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that wraps that up. And I'll toss it over to Nap for final words.
Hey, folks. There was a couple lessons learned talked about on this episode today. One is no money, no honey. But on the other side of things, we are definitely community before competition here. We are definitely going to help you out if you need it. You ask us questions, we got answers. And if we ain't got answers, we'll probably find people that do so we can make sure we get you that information. But take care of each other. As always, Nick, what you got, buddy?
Well, folks, like I always sign off, take care of yourselves and each other. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Thank you for joining us for the 85th episode. Hopefully you can tune in and listen to us on your way to work in that morning cup of Joe, for a walk, working out, doing dishes, in bed. We don't care how you tune in. We just care that you do. And, get in your shops, go make some sawdust. And with that, Sawdust Nation out.
For as little as $3 a day, you could support the Sawdust Nation podcast. Head on over to the Patreon page and take care of Josh, Nap, and Nick's addiction to woodworking. We love bringing you that content.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?